Okay,
Uh,
I'm ready. Sorry I was late. Let's
uh,
go. Dude,
no,
I'm sorry I was late.
no. Let's just start with your origin story. You're a SoCal guy, right? Born in Southern Cal?
Yeah, born and raised, Hollywood, Los Angeles, superstar, don't mind me.
Right.
Destined for greatness straight out of the womb, or at least that's what they say. Yeah, so I grew up all around Southern California, Eagle Rock, Glendale. I went to private school in Pasadena, which is like San Marino, basically all suburbs. I graduated from high school at Venice High. I went to four high schools in 4 years. I went to private school, boarding school, public school.
Right. You're a handful, I can already tell.
Listen, I was just spreading the message. That's all.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And how do you end up in Texas?
Um, so I became a drug addict at like the age of 33, I think. And I got sober and my I lived in this condo that was around the corner from a bowling alley. And I had grown up sort of with in that neighbor like in that whole arena. My grandfather was a bowler. So the bowling alley around my condo, around the block, was 24 hours. And once I was going through recovery, I just went cold turkey from meth. And so when I was going through it, my sleep patterns were all screwed up. So I would go bowl from like 2 in the morning to 6. Then I would do hair. I was doing hair at the time. And eventually, I reached out to a coach that lived in Texas, and she said, I'd be honored to work with you if you're ever here. So I said, oh, okay, well, I'll be there in 30 days. And I gave all my clients 30-day notice that I was moving. My boyfriend at the time, I was like, listen, I'm moving to Texas. I don't know what you want to do. Don't move for me, right? This is your life. You got to do what you got to do because I don't know if we're gonna make it or not. And if we don't, I don't want you to be like, well, I moved for you. No, 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 no.
Right, right.
So yeah, that was it. 30 days later, I was in Texas.
So you were a hairdresser before getting into the mortgage business, and my research tells me you just stumbled into the mortgage business
Not
because
research.
you had a horrible purchase experience.
Sound like you heard a story.
I may have.
Yes. So I was under contract, new construction home here in Texas. History Maker is the builder. They're still building homes. They build great price homes. And the LO was a douche. I didn't understand what he was saying. I didn't understand why he was being mean. I didn't understand the urgency. Like, it's a 9 month, 10 month build. What are you asking me for? Like, I just didn't get it. So I called a friend of mine who was one of my hair clients who was a realtor. She directed me to Champion School of Real Estate, not a paid advertisement. I thought, oh, well, like, okay, like, because it had something for, mortgage origination and mortgages. So I thought, oh, this will teach me about mortgages. This is great. So I took the weekend class and then I signed up for the follow-up class the following weekend, which was the review, because I thought if I don't pay attention or I miss something, I'll get it the following week. And then at the end of that second weekend review, the teacher said, hey, listen, good luck, everybody, on your exam. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, for your license. I said, to do what? He said, to do loans. I said, for who? He's like, people trying to buy a house. I said, oh, damn. Like, what?
Wow, you literally stumbled into being a mortgage advisor.
Listen, like Helen Keller all the way. Didn't
Right.
know.
But there is something to be said for having a previous life in customer service that serves you well on the mortgage side.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I say this now when I speak or when I talk to other people just casually. I had no idea that 21 years of doing hair was probably the best training I could have ever gotten to be a loan originator, right? I've got an hour to make you comfortable, like me, trust me, and to get
Trust,
your business, right? To get you
huge.
get you to come back.
Yeah.
So they teach you in hair school that the third visit is when you know the client is yours, right? The first visit is to see if you know what you're doing. The second visit is to see if you're consistent, if they like you still, right? The
Yeah,
third visit, they're yours. So,
I like that.
luckily I was a busy hairdresser. I mean, I guess, I had talent. And yeah, so, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Talking people down off the roof, being a psychiatrist, like there's so much of a meld there between what skills are necessary. So when your first foray into the mortgage side, like what were you like broker, banker, correspondent? Like how's that? Uh, just stop at collab, but before
Yeah.
collab.
So I passed the exam, went to this little like job fair at this, Champions was having. I almost got a job with this company that I don't think exists anymore, Sendera, but they were worried that they didn't have any kind of training program for new LOs. The the VP, I'll never forget. He said, "I called to tell you no, but now that I've been on the phone with you, I need to find a way to hire you."
Ah, you charming ass.
And then he still couldn't do it. I ended up working there eventually, but I ended up working for Southern Funding Alliance. I will never forget Philip Villanova, Villas, yeah, I think it's Villanova. He interviewed me, and I was sitting there. I had to go to the salon later in the day, and he said, "Well, this is what we do. This is what it's about." I was like, "Okay, well, when do I start?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you're not offering me any money. Like what? Like what? Why can't I just start, right?" Like he said, "Well, I mean, we offer you minimum wage." I said, "What is minimum?" I said, "What is that anyway?" I said, "Let me put a pause on this interview. Let me let you know that I am a successful hairdresser. This is not like some side gig. I'm broke and I'm trying to make ends meet."
Right, right.
Right? He said, "Well, I could tell by your shoes. I had these red Gucci loafers. I think they were runway 20, I don't know, 19, 20. They were badass is what they were." And he said, "I don't know what minimum wage is." I said, "Well, you should probably learn before you offer it." I said, "Anyway, I've got some appointments. What time do you want me here on Monday?"
Oh man, I wish I could see the look on his face. Like, what am I dealing with here?
He was like, "See you Monday at 10." I was like, "Bye."
And they were sounds like they were correspondent.
I think that, yeah, they were correspondent, and I became his number one LO within like a month and a half, right? So I did correspondent, then I never worked for a bank, so really correspondent lending, some direct lending. Then I brokered for about 3.5 years, went to Cardinal, left Cardinal, went back to VIP Mortgage in Colleyville. Then I left, went to NFLP as a branch P&L sort of situation, right? And that just wasn't working. And I somehow met Brian Weiss, who introduced me to, Megan and Andres, and the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
Now
So
now I'm a
what?
broker owner.
Yeah. So what did you feel? Because our business it always seems to be a grass is greener thing. What did you feel you were missing that joining Colab was going to provide you?
Well, so for me, I, I've always said, like, in terms of my mortgage career, I've always made a lot of bad decisions for the right reasons, right? And the reason I think LOs make bad decisions is because they're not told the truth.
Right.
So you don't have all the information, so you can't make a good decision. Then you get there and you realize you're screwed, and then you don't want to leave because then you look like you can't produce or you're flighty or you're, whatever, insert adjective, right?
Right.
So you put up with shit until you can get out of there not as scathed
Right.
as if you had stayed longer. So I really fumbled my way up. And when I left brokering the first time, I left because of the promise of more, right? You'll be able to do more, make more, have more free time. Everything was more.
Right.
right?
Right.
It'll be easier. And when that didn't happen, I went back. And when I reached out at that point at VIP and said, listen, I'm trying to get to X, Y, and Z. Can you help? What are we going to do? I still have goals. Because I think with brokering, that's sort of where brokers delineate into retail, right? They want the growth, they want the machinery that sometimes brokering doesn't have,
Uh-huh.
right? You can't get an assistant, you can't get an LOA, they don't, whatever the case may be, right? Broker shops are smaller. And nothing happened, nothing changed. I gave it 6 months and then I said, I'm out, right? And I went to the P&L situation. I gave that 6 months. They said, 6 months, we'll start going over the P&L. I was like, okay. 6 months came and went. By month 9, I was told, well, you're emotional. So I've just been shielding you.
Oh, man.
The
That's a
worst thing
sign.
you
That's a
can
red
tell,
flag.
yeah, listen, the worst thing you can tell me, Cuban, Puerto Rican, and Nicaraguan, is that I'm emotional because that's a challenge. I'm going to give you all the feels now, right? All of them. So,
Right. Right. So if you're hearing, if you keep hearing this grass is greener thing, what was different when Colab approached you or you approached Colab?
So when I started talking to Brian, I didn't really
Great
believe
guy,
him.
by the way. I love me some Brian
Listen,
Weiss.
Brian Weiss, I love Brian Weiss. I would say no homo, but that would be a lie. It's,
Oh, what do you call him? Han what? Han,
huh?
you can have a nickname.
Brian?
Yeah, you called him Han something, like a Star Wars.
Oh, Hans Brolo,
Han
probably, something like
Brolo.
that.
Yes, that's it.
So we were talking. Then I met with Megan, who I adore, but you know how Megan talks.
She
So
talks
then I still
fast.
wasn't, no, a little dry. She's a little dry. I love you, Megan. I love you.
You cannot talk to my sister like that.
Listen, I love you. It's a little dry. And ultimately, like, that's not the like, I understand that language, right? I
You mean the
just choose
analytical
not to
side,
hear it.
the numbers
I
and the
just,
analytical.
it just wears me down, right? And
Right.
so when I got on the group call with Andres and Megan, I was like, oh, who's this? Okay, no, okay, I see a little reflection here. I see
Right. You
the
see
color.
yourself.
I see the color. And he had a little attitude, and I'm messaging Brian in the chat, right? I'm like, what's wrong with him? He seems a little like snotty. He's like, I don't know, maybe he's having a bad day. I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see, right? And then I had another call, and Andres was apparently in a better mood, or I don't know. And I was like, okay, this is it. Like we had a great conversation. So for me, what Colab ended up representing was representation. What I saw for the first time in my career was a gay man. Sorry, I'm not outing you. Am I? Listen,
I think
outing
you're all
one,
right.
call the other one toast. Listen, I am fired.
I think you're good.
This podcast is now the end of my career. I see what you did, Brian.
No.
Um, there was this representation. He was, Latino, gay, in a place of power, right? Successful, respected, and not to take away from who he is by any stretch, and I couldn't if I tried, we're very similar. And so there was just an instant connection and I felt safe.
Right.
And feeling safe is ultimately huge for me based on my life story, right?
Yeah.
And
And
I
people
had never
don't.
felt safe in the mortgage arena. Like I've felt loved and appreciated by former mentors, but not safe. Not in that way, right?
Right. And some people can't
So,
even tap into that feeling. Like when they.
yeah, listen, a straight person can't understand what it's like to be gay if they're not gay, right? Like,
Right.
I don't know what's like to be straight. I don't know. Listen, I can't even pretend.
It's murky
So,
waters, man. It's murky waters. Don't.
listen, that's what I hear. So, I listen. So I
be
choose to stay
happy.
away from the water.
You got a beautiful husband. It is murky waters out here in
Yeah.
this world.
So, at the end of the day, it was something so new and powerful. It really was just so powerful. And at the end of the day, with the franchise, I called Andres, because it's a long agreement. It is
Yeah,
so many pages. And I called him and I said, listen, they keep sending me this fucking thing to sign, and I'm not gonna spend $10,000 to have an attorney review it. I'm not doing it.
right.
So can I say fuck? And you won't take away my franchise? He's like, yes, you're fine.
Yeah, and that that takes a level of trust, and you felt safe, and I'm sure a lawyer would just fall over out of his chair hearing you tell that story. That
On
you're
both sides.
yeah
Him
on
too,
both
I'm
sides,
sure.
and you didn't start as a franchise. You just started with Collab. Did you have a plan and say I'm just going to be with Collab and then the franchise hit you, or was it I'm going to do Collab, feel comfortable, and then maybe we'll talk about franchise?
They really wanted me on the transition team from the onset. It was always the plan for me, not my plan, but I had to catch up to Brian's vision. Brian Weiss is really the architect of me being a broker owner, and he knows this, and I
Right,
adore him, right?
right,
But it was really his vision of what I could become with Colab's help that put me on that path. And eventually, Megan pulled me into a meeting. She's like, "Listen, you're wasting time. We need to get that. Like, I see this for you." I'm like, okay, right? Like when two white people are telling you to do something, you gotta listen.
you got to listen.
Listen, when the white folks talk, you got.
Yeah. Well, so that kind of brings up like you have some bars, but one bar actually comes from Andre, and you shared it. Like it's sounding like people were seeing no roadblocks that you were seeing. You were seeing roadblocks for yourself, and you needed to stop doing that, or something to that effect.
Andre said something to me a few weeks ago now about limiting beliefs. We were talking about production. And he said, those are your limiting beliefs. And I thought, what the heck? Me? Mr. Positivity? Mr. I could do whatever listen, I'm Mylo Draven. I do what I want. What are you limiting beliefs? How dare you? Right? Like I was so thrown. And then I had to sit down and really like have a little come to Milo meeting. Like,
Right.
and I think what happens for a lot of minorities is you don't see representation, you don't hear about the possibilities, and you're so used to being looked over, passed over, ignored, silenced, right? That you just start to take things away from you without even realizing. So for me, it wasn't a limiting belief. It just wasn't even a possibility,
Right. Right. Like why
right?
go
Because
through
there's
the
a
heartache?
difference.
Why go through the
Yeah.
heartache? Yeah, which is
Yeah. And
pretty tough.
and so when it all clicked, it was so overwhelming. The day that Jessica called me, love
Shout out
Jessica.
Jessica. We love
Listen,
Jessica.
Jessica walks on water right next to Jesus. I don't care what anybody says. So Jessica called to let me know. I'd seen the email, but she called to let me know that Inclusive had gotten the NMLS approval. And Bruce and I were driving to the mall. We're either driving to eat or to shop. Like we're really stereotypical. Uh, or closing.
Right.
So I started crying as I was telling him, and I was so overwhelmed with emotion, and I was so surprised because, like I said, it was never anything I saw for myself. So I didn't think it mattered. When it happened, then I realized how much it mattered to me.
Right, right. You this whole door opened and you see all these possibilities. And it sounds like also the transition team was crucial because it allowed you to still do before I ask you this, my Mylo is my LO. I mean, come on, man. That like when did you come up with that?
Years ago, and then I put it to rest. And then
Oh.
then we brought it back with the sign for the, yeah, and then it's, but what's funny is everybody will say Milo is Milo. I'm like, no, no, Milo is my LO. And then then it clicks.
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and, I mean, just so people can see. That's there it is, right? I love that. And that looks like the cake. Does you give as a closing gift? Is that
Yeah, so we used to have a cake server and a tumbler, but now since we're transitioning between team name and
Mhm.
company name, like they just get in the cake. The rest
Right?
of the swag will come back this year.
Right. So the transition to I was going to ask you. So the transition
Yes.
allowed you to go from Milo the loan officer to Mylo, the broker owner, without skipping a beat, meaning I think you had maybe your best month, like either because you started in March officially as a broker. Then you have your best month in April.
Yeah, last month was the best month of my career.
And what do you attribute that to? Grinding.
I attribute one of them initially first and foremost.
Because you're the
Listen,
bomb. I'll say it.
listen. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my mother for birthing me. I would like to thank the Lord because through him all things are possible. Then I would like to thank my husband, Bruce. Bruce really has created a safe space for me to function as an LO
Because Bruce
in
is
a
your,
very
for those who don't know, Bruce is your husband and your
Bruce is my husband.
LOA, your own officer assistant, and keeps the
He's my
machine
processor now.
and processor.
Yes, and he films all the social media, edits it, the videos. But Bruce really gave me a safe space to work in a truly authentic way without doubting myself. And then between, all of that, God, my mom, and Bruce, then you get the collab concierge team. And yeah, I have not had to worry about setting things up and the minutia, and I'm just not that person. Like I can do it. I would much rather pay and have the economy healthy, honestly. And when I tell Jessica every time we talk, I said, "Boss, what do I need to do now?" Like, Jessica owns inclusive lending.
She's in charge.
Listen, Jessica is my boss. I tell her every day,
So,
what do I
so,
need to do?
so, what was Jessica's role in the transition from LO to franchise broker owner?
Fucking superstar. What hasn't Jess done? She and Danny behind the scenes were getting all the NMLS stuff. They're getting all of the licensing with, sorry, not licensing, yes, but all of the vendors, all of the
Tying up
lenders,
with the
all those
lender.
applications, the P&L, like, anything that they needed me to do, I would do, so like, which was not crazy. I was signing things, which is, I don't know what I was signing, honestly, but I signed everything. They got the DBA for me, the LLCs, literally everything.
The
When I
legal,
tell
the
you
compliance, the licensing,
all of it, there's
software, like a
all of it. Like they're setting up so I have two Arrive accounts right now, one for my, like Team Milo and one for inclusive. They set all the inclusive up. Like I can't tell you enough good things or anybody literally about collab, the transition path to broker ownership, the concierge team once you decide you're going to become a broker owner. Like what Megan and Andres have created and what Danny and Jessica execute is chef's kiss.
well said. Even like a little bit on the lenders you chose. What was that
Yes.
process like? Because I think some people would be intimidated who were thinking I could do this better. I want to jump ship and I want to have my own, but I don't know who. So are you going to a paper to FHA? Like, how did you decide who you? Or you just surrendered to Jessica, the queen?
No, so listen, I'm not gonna say too much because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but there is a system that they have in place that did not necessarily work for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think, and I also think because I'm who I am, like, can you really deny this face? Look.
No way. No way.
So, I got a few more lenders than I was supposed to, but to answer your question, I have UWM, right? I have a secret lender that I cannot announce. I
Okay.
also have
Yep.
I went with Kind because I know the AE and I hear great things about them. PRMG I went with because they have a DPA program, great jumbo pricing. Like I closed a $1.3 million deal there. I know the AE from previously when she was at Fairway Wholesale, so we have a great working relationship. I had never heard of Windsor until I got to Colab. Trey is fucking amazing. And so Windsor, I was top 40 last month in their for their LOs. They're basically my A paper. Like they're it's just easy underwriting. I went with places that I knew the AE or I
Uh-huh.
knew the company, right? I
Right.
tried some other places like the loan store. I will dog them till I have no breath. Um,
So you're saying it was a collaboration between you and Jessica, who you signed up with.
Jess didn't say anything. Jess basically said, "What you can have five." I ended up with 11.
Oh, got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay.
But they really sort of give you 5 to 6 because they don't want you overwhelmed.
Right. Right.
Um, I've got Spring EQ for HELOCs and HELoans. I did Cake because again, I'm super relationship oriented. It doesn't matter what an AE tells you if the company can't pivot,
Yeah.
right? And so
And our
that's my
business
issue
is
with the
always
loan
make you
store.
pivot.
Yeah, if the loan store couldn't pivot, the loan store gave me two back-to-back appraisals. One was short 100,000, the other one was short 65. So I said, okay, we're done.
Right.
We
Right.
are done. I've tried a couple of other places and with mixed results. At the end of the day, I think as a broker, mobility for the lender is key. You can't chase you can't chase yield because if you're chasing the dollar, and I've said this my entire career, even when I did hair, if you're chasing money, you will never catch it.
Right. Right.
You
Like,
have to do the right thing. You create goodwill, you create karma, you create good energy, and it happens, right? I don't chase yield. I would never throw my relationship with Windsor for another lender for $500.
right.
I'm not doing it,
Right.
right?
Are you okay on time? Because I don't want.
Yeah, yeah, no, whatever you need. If you need to
Yeah.
cut it, cut it. I'm good.
So not chasing money. You have a great analogy about like those game shows where the money's blowing.
Yeah, like when you get into a wind tunnel where like they put you in there, you're standing there and they're all reaching, right? They don't catch shit. The ones that do this just stand there and open their shirt, man, they
Right.
come out bloated with money.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. So I mentioned bars. You got some bars, and I want you to tell me like what these mean to you. You say I have a servant's heart, but not a less than mindset. That's a bar right there.
Is that a bar? I don't know what a
That's a
bar
bar.
is. What's a bar? Is that like a bumper sticker?
That's hip hop, Milo. That's
Okay.
bars. Bars. When you got bars, you can
Okay, so I
freestyle.
got
That's
okay, so that's
bars.
like a rap. I got a line.
No, I don't want to call it a line. It's
But it's a
not a
bar.
line
Okay,
because
it's a
it's coming
bar.
from the
Listen,
heart.
as the kids say, I got Riz now, right? Is that what it is?
Yes, yes, exactly. So talk to me about that. I have a severance heart, but not a less than mindset.
Listen, I believe in doing, listen, we're all raised this way from a very young age. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's the golden rule. And for me, I am happy to do for others, to serve, to nurture, to give, to care for, but not at the sacrifice of who I am, not to the sacrifice or detriment of respect. It's not happening. the biggest trigger for me is disrespect. You raise your voice to me. I'm not mad that you raised your voice. I'm mad that you were disrespectful.
Right. Which brings me to another bar. Not all money is good money.
Listen, I'm ready to fire a client today.
Yeah, and is it disrespect or not listening? That's one of my pet peeves. If I'm because I'm really big on education, and if I'm trying to explain something to you and you're not being coachable, that's one that kind of makes me crazy.
Yeah, listen, if you're not listening to me, you don't respect me because you don't, what I'm saying has no value, right?
Yeah,
Respect is literally the umbrella for every bad behavior in
yeah,
my book.
yeah, yeah,
So for me, not all money is good money. It's not that they're not listening. Sometimes it's they're in charge. If you're licensed, listen, I'm not an LOA. I'm already the wrong person for you.
yeah.
But since you're not licensed
Right,
and you're not on my payroll,
right, right.
I don't have time to clash with people. At the end of the day, I tell every one of my clients, the people that have keys are the people that listen to me.
Yeah,
And I'm not going to have you do anything that I wouldn't do or haven't done to buy a home or that any other client hasn't done. These are guidelines. I tell this a lot to clients. So I say, you can't hustle into a house. You hustle on the streets.
yeah, yeah. Because
You
yeah,
know,
it's gonna come out. Like be just upfront. We don't judge. It's like I don't care what your past, your credit. Like just give it to me so I can help you get to where you're trying to get to.
at the end of the day, like I told one of my clients, she was embarrassed. I think her credit score was like a 440. And I said, listen, I filed bankruptcy at 20. So
Yeah,
I've seen a 400. I've seen, an 802. I said, this is life. Like
yeah,
now you realize the ramifications of your actions, and now it's time to change. You just
right.
make a pivot. Like, don't be upset about it, just fix it. She's like, I feel better. You really aren't judging. I said, I don't have time to judge. Like, I don't sit on a cloud omnipresent. Like, I have done some fucked up shit in my life.
Yeah.
I've cleaned my karma and I'm not trying to get it dirty. So listen, do you, boo? Like I had one client, she said, I just don't understand why I can't get pre-approved. Girl, you literally have 10 collection accounts for every cellular carrier across the country that you didn't pay.
Right, right, right.
What
Or
do
the
you
one
mean you
that
don't understand?
yeah. Or the one that gives you a bank statement with negative balance.
Listen, I had a client under contract. The underwriter called me and said, your client didn't file taxes. I said, yeah, he did. I sent it to, I uploaded them myself, right?
Yeah.
I know. No, you're not listening to me. I said, oh Lord, here we like, when when the underwriter gets that tone, you already know you're like, it's like your dad, your mom, you're like, you're so in trouble. She said, there are no transcripts. I said, I'm sorry. I don't think I heard you. She said, there are no transcripts, which means they did not file returns. I said, oh God. So I called the
Yeah.
client. I said, hey, just want to verify. Did you file those returns that you gave me? Oh, no, not yet. Those are what I expect to file.
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, so that's mortgage fraud. I
Yeah.
need you to file the returns.
Yes.
Is everybody going to require that? Sir,
Wow.
have a good day.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, this business is not for the faint of heart because some of the stuff that just comes out of people's mouths or happen, and you got to be resilient. Here's another one. Remember, if no one else tells you, I am on your side. I love that.
Thank
You say
you.
that a lot.
I say it almost every post. Um, don't want to cry. So there was a time in my life that was so dark and so without hope. And I felt so isolated. And maybe some of it was self-inflicted, but at the end of the day, when I came out of that whole post addictive, post, toxic relation, like all of that, right? When I started to come out of the devastation, right? I started to tell myself, I will never let anyone feel like that
Right. Right. Because you've been there.
because there's a quote that I read one day in the midst of all of this that said suicide is a direct result of the loss of hope.
Right.
And I was sitting in my chair, very suicidal at the time, and I was planning, right? And I had already attempted a few times, like this is a whole thing, right?
Right.
But at the end of this read, it said, "Congratulations, you've lived an extra 15 minutes that you weren't counting on."
Wow, that's deep. That is deep.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that was it for me. So when I tell people, like when I speak, when I, do videos, whatever it is, when I say, you know, when I say that, it's from my heart. I don't want anyone to feel like they're alone.
Yeah, I love that. Then thank you for sharing that. So when it comes to borrowers, we just talked about one of the it's about don'ts. One don't is
Don't lie.
don't lie. uh don't tell us you filed your taxes when you did. Don't have negative balances. Um what would be another big one if someone's a first time home buyer thinking about buying home? What should definitely be happening that we haven't talked about that they should be thinking about?
I think the biggest thing, the two biggest things are don't think you can't become a homeowner because you can, and don't think you know better. That's it. It's literally that simple,
That simple.
right? No limiting beliefs, right? Because you
Uh,
can, and don't think you know better. Like, because how many times have you or I talked to somebody like, well, I heard, well, I read, well, my friend,
oh yeah, a lot. Because when you're buying a home, you're talking to everybody, and everybody's a professional. No nah NMLS number between them, but they all are experts.
listen, this is what I say. How many of those people live in a house,
Right,
right? It's usually not even half.
right.
And well, so my great grandmother bought it. Okay, that was in 19.
It's a different game. The game is a
My
lot different.
grandfather said, girl, that was in 1920 something. Like we are in 2025. What really catches me sometimes is when I'll get a listing agent. Well, I used to do loans. Girl, please stop. Sir, let me not be a misogynist. Sir, please
Right,
stop.
right, right.
Stop. There's a reason you don't do them anymore. Let's not have that conversation, right? Like, I am not here to talk
Oh
about your
man,
pre 2008 MLO days. I don't care. Not
your
one fuck given. Like, stop.
your gift is speaking truths. One more tip for a borrower. Talk to me about for a borrower who just bought their house, and all of a sudden they start getting these mailings, these snail mails. I spam, I call them.
Yes. So we had closings this week, and we go to as many as we can, and I always tell them, and the title agent usually says it, but if they don't, I'll say it, and I'll always reiterate it. You're gonna get about 50 pieces of junk mail. It's gonna have bold lettering. It's gonna have your name. It might have my name. It could have the lender name. You're gonna look at it. You're gonna be panicked. There's nothing you need to pay for post closing. There is nothing that is urgent post closing. And if you can't figure it out, take a picture of it and send it to me.
Yeah, exactly. It's great, great. Yeah, okay. Two items, and then I'm going to ask you one question.
Okay.
Number one, your shoe game is so strong. I don't even want to call you a sneakerhead. You're like a shoe horse, like a clothes horse. Is that fair? Would that be accurate? Because sneakerhead just thinks
I mean,
Nike, Keds. You're Gucci, you're Fendi, you're MTL. I mean, talk to me about that.
so it happened by accident. I had a really difficult deal and I thought, I deserve a present. I'm all about reward. I'm a very reward driven person,
Yeah,
right?
as most of
And
us are.
so I went and bought me some Gucci loafers and I took a picture of them. I was like, this deal was blah, blah, blah. And I worked so hard, so I deserve this. And then the next closing, I was like, well, buy me another pair of shoes. I felt so good. And And it's nothing when you're closing one or two every other month, like in the beginning of your career.
Yeah.
But then you
Right.
start closing four, five, six deals, right? And then it's and again, it's a poverty mindset. Like it is literally a poverty mindset. Instead of me thinking, oh, the money's here, I need to be stacking.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking the money's here. Let me show these people I'm a success.
Right.
They may not think it, but they can't deny it if they see these shoes or this bag, right?
Right. Right.
And it's so stupid. It's such a bad mistake. Like I'm literally the Sarah Jessica Parker, Carrie of Sex in the City in real life. My shoe closet is well worth $250,000. It is obscene.
Hey man,
No, you should
everybody has
be
their hobbies.
pointing a gun at my head. Like, when Bruce moved in, I gave him one of my closets. I have stuff in my closet. I have stuff in this closet here in this office. I have stuff in the hall closet. I have stuff in the kitchen cabinets. Like I have
Right.
stuff and stuff in the pantry. So things where when you're poor, things are a sign of success and prosperity.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but you don't realize, I think a lot of us as we come up, we don't realize when the switch has shifted and it's
Uh-huh.
like, I'm here.
Right. When
I
was the
don't
shift?
have to prove this.
When was the shift when you were able to say we can't work together, either a realtor or a client? Because when you start out, everything is like, oh, I gotta have this. When was that point?
I mean,
With
it
you,
really,
Mr. Honesty, 100%, that probably happened pretty early.
be like year one.
Oh, I'm just jealous. That's all. I'm just jealous.
But the thing is, people fire themselves before you have to,
Uh-huh.
right? In the beginning, like I sat down at a lunch with a husband and wife realtor team,
Uh-huh.
and he kept saying a non-clinical word for part of her anatomy. I'm not gonna
Oh,
say it on the podcast, right?
right,
I'm gonna
right,
keep it
right,
clean.
right,
And I was like, I'm floored,
right.
right? Like I have a mouth, but there's just like I'm also respectful. Like, and there's a time and a place,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I was just like, and I was like, what? Okay. And then at the end of this lunch, they were like, well, you were so great. It is just so unfortunate that you're gay and we can't work with you.
Oh, please. Right.
When I tell you, my head must have spun like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. So
Wow.
me not being as cool as I am now and mature, I
At
said, well,
57,
listen,
you've mellowed.
I've mellowed. I said, well, listen, if I were straight and married, bet your ass I'd never say X, Y, and Z at the table next, not only next to my wife, but
Right,
during lunch. I said,
right.
so here's $40. Have free food on the fag. I left. I was done.
Oh,
My
boom.
friend runs out after me because it was the title. He said, what are you doing? I said, do you want some too?
It
Look,
ain't the time. It ain't the time.
go inside. Go try to,
Right, right. It gets back to the respect thing, man.
yeah, it's back to respect. Like at the end of the day, I'm not worried how anybody else is living their life
Mhm.
behind closed doors.
Right,
I don't care how you live it in full pride. Like
right,
if you're standing 10 toes down on the way you live, then more power to you. I
right.
have zero to say about it, right? And at the end of the day, like I just said, I'm ready to fire a client now. It's because he's trying to do too much and he's not listening. And you're not A, worth my license. B, that check is not going to be worth the stress you've already given me pre-contract.
Right. Yes. Amen.
Like if I want that kind of stress, I'll go make fries at the drive-in window.
Right.
Like and no
Yeah.
disrespect to that. Like I've
Yeah.
done that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
work fast food. You want to
Right.
be treated like crap? Go punch a cash register at a fast food restaurant.
Yeah. 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 Good for you. Okay. So one more thing, and then I got
Yes.
two items, but one more. I want you to tell me about Betty Gomez because
Do you
this
have a crush on my mom,
you talk.
Brian?
Well, first of all, Mylo, you talk about your team, and we know Bruce, but I haven't heard you on any podcast anybody ask you about Betty because she does look fabulous, and I would never cross that line. Because how does your
You
mom make
could
me?
listen. Call you stepdaddy. As long as you can afford my shoes, I'll call you
Right.
stepdaddy.
For Christmas, that's the only caveat. I just got to buy you some fly. You had some clogs that I don't usually wear clogs, but you had some clogs I saw. I was like, those are fire. So anyway,
Thank
Betty,
you.
tell me about
Yeah,
Betty.
so yeah, my mom is she's my heart, like she is my hero, my inspiration. She is the strongest woman I've ever met. She is tenderhearted but tough as fucking nails. And Betty is the kind of person you want on your side and not the kind of person you want to piss
Yes,
off.
right. Single mom, worked a lot of jobs for her only
Single
child,
mom,
right? You're an only
yeah,
child.
so single mom, she met my father, got married, threw him out, found out she was pregnant after.
Got it.
In divorce court, he asked for the rings back because his girlfriend was pregnant. So my mom lost her shit, threw the rings, almost got thrown in contempt of court in 1967. She was spicy.
Yes, yes. I
Yeah,
don't
so
know
she
where you
had
get it
me.
from. I don't know where you get it
Yeah,
from.
literally straight from the well. She yeah, raised me as a single mother, no alimony, no child support. I've never met my father. She worked for the city for 45 years. If she wanted something nice, she got a second job. And she would work second jobs here and there, like sporadically, because she wanted a purse or she wanted to go on vacation. So my work ethic was instilled by that. Like, if you want something, go get it, work for it and get it. Like,
Right,
it's that
right,
simple, right?
right.
And she taught me, you know, do the footwork, God will take care of the rest.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't let, Mother's Day just go by and not have you give her flowers.
No,
So
listen, I adore her. She lives on the third floor. We live in the same condo tower. She loves Bruce. Bruce loves her. My ex is my best friend, Jeff, and she loves Jeff. She's like, how did I end up with three boys? I
there
said,
you
they call
go.
you a fag. Listen, you a fag hag now, mom. That's what it's called.
Yeah, and she probably wears it proudly. So,
Listen, she loves her drag queens. She loves her gays. My mom has Listen, we all come from very humble beginnings. She's an army brat.
uh-huh,
When I was 17, she called me. She knew I was gay when I was 15. It sort of came out.
right.
And my senior year, I was living with her, and she called me one day. She said, "Hey, I have a question for you." I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" She said, "Are you still gay?" I said, "Oh, girl, some things just don't
So cute.
change." And
Oh,
she
that's so
said,
cute.
well,
Bless her
I'm just
heart.
checking.
Yeah.
I'm just checking.
Isn't that what they say in Texas? Bless her heart.
I mean, and then she went to like now kind of meeting, like now your kids are gay. And she came back so disgusted. She's like, they're not talking to their kids. They threw them out. She's like, I just want to know what you're doing. I was like, well, there's only one other gay kid in my senior class, and we're not doing anything. So listen,
Right.
I'll call you when I get busy. There's nothing happening.
I'll report back. I got nothing.
Yeah, I'll give you the
As
update.
as most of us in high school had nothing. Uh,
Yeah, no. So she really is my biggest supporter. Listen, I would die for her. I
yeah,
wouldn't
her
even
her
think
spirit
twice.
comes out in her photos. So,
Yeah, she's
so
she's cool people.
yeah. So what are the goals now that you are now broker owner, Hefe of your own company, Inclusive Lending LLC? What's the goals for 2025 and 5 years down the road?
Yeah, domination. Listen, I the goal this year is to really have my voice be heard and to make sure that the message resonates. I want to be, wow, I can't believe I'm going to say any of this out loud. Um, I want to
Manifestation.
be, yeah, I want to be a representation for the people that don't feel represented,
Right.
right? I remember being at an event last year and I looked at Andres and I said, Where are the gay people? Where are the colored folks? Where are the women?" Right? He was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think, at the end of the day, even though I didn't expect to become a broker owner, now that I have a platform,
You have a
it's
responsibility to
important.
lift others up.
Now I have a responsibility, and it's not about in our business, which I don't understand it honestly. You know, all the cultural groups segregate, right?
Yeah,
There's NAREP and there's the Asian group, and then there's the
yeah,
black. It's like NAMBA, and it's like,
yeah.
what are we doing? Right? You're segmenting yourself, and then you're complaining about not getting all this different, a variety of
Right.
business. Like at the end of the day, we're loan officers. I don't care what color your skin is. I care about, do you have money? Do you have good credit? Do you listen? Like, do you have goals that we can achieve?
Yeah.
Like, if you look through my Instagram or even my Facebook, like my closings are every demographic, every
Right.
racial background. Like, there's no color boundary at the end of the day. And when I speak to my clients, I tell them mortgage isn't race or it's not socioeconomically or racially motivated. It's math driven.
Yeah. It's an
Client doesn't know
algorithm.
what your skin tone is.
Yeah, it's an algorithm.
And so for me, that's the goal. This year, the goal is to get five LOs in the company that have a similar vision. Like, you don't have to have my vision, right? Because I'm me,
Yeah, yeah.
but who want to be helpful, who want to include, right? Not just their people, all people, right?
Right.
And I want to create something that Andres would be proud of, that Andres and Megan would really be proud of because they've given me the opportunity and I don't want to disappoint them.
Now, I 100% feel what you feel. uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, good luck with that. And I appreciate the time. I'm just going to say, I don't want this to be the only time you and I talk because there's so many things and thoughts that I want you to share with people. And I don't, you be stingy not to share all the knowledge that you have.
You holler at me anytime. I will pick up the phone. I will sit down for a podcast. Listen, you my new bestie.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, that January 7th, me and I said, man, this dude needs to be in my life. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. So,
Well, I appreciate it.
keep
Are
fighting the
you
good
going
fight.
next week?
Say that again. Yes, I will be there. Are you going to be there?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to that. Yes,
Better
sir.
bring your shoes, boo. You better bring your shoes.
Look, my shoe game is proletariat compared to what you're bringing to the table. I'll try not to embarrass myself. How's that?
You're hilarious.
All right, man. All the best. Keep killing it.